All right, let's dive in. If you're here, you're probably ready to move past the basics. This explainer is all about a totally different way to think about economic architecture. We're not going to be talking about chasing money. Instead, we're going to talk about building systems of real leverage using the one thing that actually creates all value: information. Let's get started. So here's our game plan. We're going to break this down into 5 key parts. First, we'll tear apart a huge myth about money. Then, we'll look at why information is the real power player. After that, we'll get practical about finding the good stuff, the signal in a world of noise. Then, we'll redefine what our most valuable currency really is. And finally, tie it all together to show how knowledge leads to true professional freedom.
Okay, so first things first. Before you can build a high-leverage business, you have to bulldoze the faulty foundation most people build on. And that foundation is our whole assumption about what money even is.
Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds nuts, right? Maybe even just flat out wrong. But I want you to just sit with that statement for a second, because truly getting this is the price of admission for everything else we're about to cover.
Think about it. Money is just a logistical tool. It's a truck. It can move things around, but it can't invent a new product or come up with a brilliant solution. It's the vehicle, not the architect. It just follows orders, moving resources from point A to point B based on instructions it was given.
So here's the crucial point. Money is just a shorthand. It's a compressed file for things like time, trust, and work. But, and this is the key, it has zero intelligence. It has no idea where it should go. It only knows where it's told to go. And the quality of those instructions, well, that changes everything.
Which brings us right to the absolute core of this whole model. If money is just a dumb tool following orders, then who or what is writing those orders? The answer is information. This is where real value comes from. This right here, this is the fundamental law of leverage. You have to get this. Capital is reactive. It chases insight. It flows to the people and places with the most clarity and the least amount of uncertainty. So if you spend your life chasing money, you're always going to be downstream, just reacting to things that have already happened.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. You've got 2 totally different ways of operating. Over here on the left, the money chaser is in constant reaction mode. They're buying the hype, selling the panic. But on the right, you've got the information positioner. They operate upstream. They aren't rushing. They put themselves where value is going to be because they took the time to understand the map first. Of course, not all information is created equal, right? I mean, far from it. High-leverage, truly valuable information has these 4 distinct qualities. It has to be early, way before everyone else knows it. It has to be accurate, obviously. It needs context to mean anything. Raw data points are just trivia. And finally, it has to be actionable. It has to point you toward a clear decision.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? Real leverage lives in that gap between what you know and what the rest of the market knows. If you're just following the headlines, you're playing a losing game. By the time an opportunity is obvious, the smart players have already taken the value out of it.
Okay, so let's get into the practical side of this. If information is the holy grail, how in the world do you find it, especially today when we're all basically drowning in an ocean of data? You know, the biggest threat to building a high-leverage model isn't a lack of information. It's the overwhelming abundance of noise. Noise feels like it's important because it's loud, it's urgent, it's everywhere. But the real signal, that's usually quiet, it's scarce, and it takes incredible discipline just to even notice it.
So what's the actual process? Look, it's not about just collecting a bunch of facts. It's a structured discipline. First, you have to isolate that tiny bit of signal from all the noise. Then, you integrate that signal into a model of how you think the world works. Third, and this is crucial, you test that model against reality. Does it actually predict things? And only then, after all that, do you apply it to get that precise leverage.
This brings us to a much bigger idea. The ultimate goal of this whole system isn't just to pile up money. It's to accumulate the one thing you can never, ever get back: your time.
This is such a critical insight. Think about it. Let's say you're launching a product. Good information doesn't just tell you which one marketing channel to use. It tells you which 9 channels to avoid completely. It saves you months of wasted effort and potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. The biggest leverage you have is in all the catastrophic mistakes you don't make.
And this just reframes the entire idea of profit, doesn't it? When you pay an expert, you're not really paying for their time. You're paying them back for the years of painful, expensive mistakes they made to get the knowledge that allows you to skip all that pain. Profit is really just a reward for applied wisdom.
And this leads to a really powerful conclusion about ethics, which you can see right here in this table. Business models that are built on selling effort, or attention, or identity, they're all fundamentally manipulative. They prey on human weakness. But a model that's built on selling clean, precise, actionable information, that's totally different. It doesn't manipulate people, it enables them. It's about empowerment.
And all of that brings us to the final objective, the real end game of this entire architecture. It's not about being rich. It's about professional sovereignty, that freedom that only comes from deep, real, actionable understanding.
But here's the catch. This is the hidden cost of real knowledge. A lot of people choose to stay ignorant, not because learning is hard, but because knowing makes you responsible. As soon as you understand how a system really works, you can't pretend you didn't know any better. Accountability is the price you pay for competence.
And let's just make a quick distinction here. Wisdom, that's information that has been through hell and back. It's been tested by reality and survived. New information, on the other hand, is like fast wisdom that hasn't been proven yet. Both are useful, but only one has truly earned its stripes.
So what does the person who actually lives this philosophy look like? Well, they're the high leverage operator. They don't get swept up in excitement. They value clarity. They invest heavily in understanding before they act. They pay for precision, not for big promises. They don't operate with a sense of frantic urgency. And you know what they're really afraid of? It's not losing money, it's losing the signal.
And so we end right here with the one question that should completely reorient your focus from now on. What do I understand that others don't? Yet, finding the answer to that question is how you stop chasing outcomes and start building a foundation of asymmetric knowledge. And that is the true architecture of leverage.